Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. How you doing, everyone? I hope everyone's having a wonderful Friday afternoon. Thank God it's Friday, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Welcome back to another edition of the Care South Carolina Community Live Podcast. Um, I am one of your hosts, Mark Calhoun. I am the Director of Social and Community Services with my partner in crime.
I'm Daniel Myers, Director of MAT for CARE South Carolina. Yes.
Absolutely. And we have a special guest in the building today. I've known this young lady for, oh my God, quite a number of years and watched her grow up and blossom and into a very talented singer, um, uh, very smart, ingenuitive, very innovative young lady with her own organization now. I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna let her introduce herself. 'Cause we don't like to talk for our guests. We give our guests the floor and let them talk for themselves.
Okay. Well, thanks for
There you go.
having me. My name is Arthenius Jackson. I am originally from Hartsville, but now reside in Florence. And as Marek has stated, he's been knowing me for a long time. I think I met him when my mom first started at CareSouth, so I was a little girl then. And so, yes, you have known me for a number of years now. I'm not even quite sure how many years it has been, but I'm excited to be here and be a part of this platform today as we bring Sexual Assault Awareness Month to the close. It has been quite a month with me being in a new career change and trying to advocate fully like I wanted to for this month, but it's been a little different. But nevertheless, advocacy is what I do 365. So it's not just for 1 month because I am, a survivor and a strong advocate for all victims and survivors of sexual abuse. And I'm sure we'll talk more about it, but I am the founder and director of my organization called One Touch Transformation, where our mission is to educate the community about sexual abuse while encouraging and empowering all victims and survivors. And so the organization, it simply started out from my story or just simply sharing my story of overcoming childhood sexual abuse. And so, yes, as I said, I have a career change now. So I'm now a teacher where I once was working different careers now. But this is quite a new journey for me too, a learning experience, but I am enjoying it. But more than anything, I'm just happy that I can, still be able to advocate in whatever area or whatever arena that I'm in. So I'm really excited about being a part of the platform today. So thank you again for having
Absolutely, absolutely. Just knowing you when you first started your organization, I mean, it was all about advocacy and teaching. So you
me.
still align with what your mission's always been, just kind of in a different area, right?
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
so yeah. So you had mentioned earlier about your organization growing from your story of survival, and from that blossomed your organization, One Touch Transformation. And what pushed you to the forefront of being able to speak up? Because we know, both Daniel and I are from law enforcement background. We both were police officers, and we know from a victimology standpoint that some victims just they keep that in. You know what I'm saying? And they
Right.
don't ever come out. So what made you step
Mhm.
up and step forward and tell your story and become that survivor that you are today?
All right. So I did not come forward, immediately after the abuse ended, or even after the night that I was actually molested. So I was actually 6 years old when I was molested by a family member, and I did not say anything about it. The next day, years later, it took me 20 years to even come forward and share with my family. But throughout those years, of course, from the age 6 and up until 26, I was silent for multiple reasons. As a child, I was silent because I thought that I would be the one who was blamed. I thought that I would tear the family apart. I felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I just didn't want anyone pointing the fingers at me. And then, like I said, with it being by a family member, I just did not want to go through all of that. I did not want the pressure of it. I just did not want to endure any of it. And so, like, a lot of victims do, just pushed it to the back of my mind and tried to make it seem like it didn't happen or pretend that it did not happen. But the effects of it, they were extremely, extremely detrimental. And I realized years later that my behavior, the way that I thought, the way my mind was shaped, how everything was just so jaded just because of what I went through. And that's what happens when you go through any kind of traumatic experiences. And with it being a molestation, and it's not, you can't even really call that sex, because that wasn't sex, it was rape. But the way it was introduced to me at such a young age, it jaded everything when it came to trust, when it came to love, and even when it just came to how someone just approaches you or touches you or come within your boundaries or within reach. And so all of that, I just had, it was just so jaded and misconstrued. And I did not know how to, I guess, undo everything that was kind of taught to me through that encounter. And so you deal with all of these effects through childhood, through adolescent years, and then up into adult years. And it was mainly because I didn't say anything about it. And so because I didn't say anything about it, then I couldn't get the help that I needed as a child. And so it begins to affect the way you trust people, the way you interact with people, even the ones that you love. I mean, because your family members, they don't know what's going on. And because you haven't shared with them, then they can't see what's bothering you, what's going on. And I used to wear a smile all the time, and no one would have never thought that anything like that happened. I mean, even growing up in the family that I grew up in, always been in the church, went to church every single weekend. And at the same time, no one knew what had happened or what was still going on, because even after the initial rape, I was still being assaulted by the same person. Even as I got older, he was so cunning and just so manipulative. Like, it's crazy how, when I think back, it's like, it's crazy how it happened. Because sometimes I still have trouble with this. Sometimes I just kind of feel bad because I didn't say anything, because I'm like questioning, like, why didn't I speak up? But I realize that's normal for us to feel like that. It's normal for victims to blame themselves, or just feel like that they were wrong for not even saying anything. Because there have been plenty of times when I've questioned myself, saying, why didn't I just say something? But again, you have these trust issues. And then, like, I have, and I know what other victims and survivors do. We wear this mask, we wear this smile, making people think that we are okay and that we're fine. But deep down inside, we are hurt, we're feeling broken, we're feeling lonely, we're feeling hopeless. And that's how I felt for so many years, even up until I became an adult, because I did not understand what was going on in my head. I did not know. I did not love who I was. I was not confident in who I was. I did not feel like I was beautiful enough. I felt like I wasn't enough. And there were so many paths and so many wrong paths that I took because I was not sure of who I was and what was going on in my head. And then I didn't know who I could talk to. And so counseling and therapy, it wasn't a topic, especially growing up in our Black families. Nobody talked about going to seek a therapist or a counselor. So that wasn't even a thought in my mind. And also another thing that I think about now is, like, no one ever just talks about sexual abuse or just have the conversation of what to do in case it does happen, or when it does happen, who to tell. I mean, this is not a part of the everyday conversation. And so here I am thinking, as a child and even as a teenager, and then as a young adult, I'm like, well, this must be not going on in our family, or maybe it's not really happening, because I feel like I'm the only one this has happened to. And so because no one else is talking about it, then I'm not going to say anything about it, because why? And so for years and years, all of those things just was in my mind. And it wasn't until 2013 when I finally reached a breaking point. I had got to the point where I was having suicidal thoughts. I was taking pills, just trying to numb the feeling, because nothing could ease the pain that I was in. And it was more so, that emotional and that mental pain, because people don't realize how much it affects you mentally, emotionally. It affects you spiritually, because again, no one talks about it even in church. And so it's like, who do we go to? And I was thinking these same things, or having these questions all the time. Who am I supposed to go to? Who can I talk to? We don't talk about it at home. We don't talk about it at school, because they taught us everything about drugs. They taught us everything about alcohol. but not once did we talk about rape. And it doesn't make sense even now when I think about it. It's like, how can we have like a whole week of dare, or when we're talking about alcohol abuse, but no one talks about good touch and bad touch, consent and boundaries. And so these are all of the right reasons of why it needs to be a part of curriculums, why it needs to be part of church sermons, Bible studies, everything. It needs to be part of our conversations, because I feel like if we have this awareness going on, then it could eliminate a lot of abuse and a lot of issues. And so in 2013, I was sitting with my mentor at the time, and he simply asked me the question, out of the blue. And he said, he said, has anyone ever touched you inappropriately when you were a child? And so at first, like we always do, like try to brush, like, why are you going to know that? Become very defensive. And so I finally did admit it to him. And he strongly encouraged me to tell my family. I did not want to tell my family. One reason I did not want to tell my family is because I knew how close we are. I know how close we are. And then two, my dad is a pastor. And so I was like, I do not want to tell my dad this, because he's going to give me one or two reactions. He's going to give me the reaction from the father perspective, or the reaction of a pastor's perspective or reaction. And the one that I was longing for, of course, was having the father's reaction, because I'm like, look, I don't need a pastor right now. I just need you as my dad to respond. And so it took me about a week or two before I could finally sit down with my family, and we gathered in the room, all of us, two older brothers. And so all of us were in the room, and I still couldn't even say it. I had to write it out. And that was the way they found out, through the letter that I had written, because it was still too painful to even talk about, to even say it. And so that night they found out. And of course there was crying, and there was silence. There was some angry emotions, because my brothers, being that they're older brothers, are supposed to protect their younger sister. So they were feeling, that kind of emotion, like feeling upset and feeling like they had failed me as a big brother. My parents, they blamed themselves because they didn't know. But one thing that I have been doing since day one, since I've shared it with them, is reassure them that it wasn't their fault, because I did not tell them. They did not know. And of course, I know they felt bad about it, because it was a family member, and family is supposed to be the people that you trust. And sadly, most of the perpetrators are family members or friends of the families, people who you know, and people that you think that you can trust. And so that lets us know that we have to be careful who kids go around, even your own family members, because it can be aunts and uncles, it can be grandparents.
I think we lost her there. Let's see if we can get her back on. Wow.
This is a deep conversation. This is deep, Marek. This is very, very deep. And it's opening up a lot of things in my mind, me being a pastor. Maybe this is things that we do need to talk about in church, and talk about within our families with our grandchildren. Wow.
Absolutely. Definitely something that need to be aware of in the community and have those conversations. Um, wow, that's all I can say is wow. And family should have that conversation, especially with your kids.
But she made a good point that we have a whole campaign around drug abuse, but we have very little about sexual abuse. I mean, it's more open now because of the stars, and the people who are rich and famous. Right. But what about the little people that live in the communities that we live in, who don't have all this prestige, who don't have the lawyers that they can go to? What about those people? My heart is really aching for her right now. And I understand that, she's, it's just bothering me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I definitely agree. And I guess following the Me Too movement, a lot of things, with all these stars began to come to fruition. But there were a lot of victims way before those things came to light.
Yes.
And like she said, those conversations just need to be had within families and organizations. There she go. She's
I'm
back.
sorry.
No, no problem, no problem, no problem.
I, but as I was saying, it could be anyone that we think that we can trust. So it could be any kind of family member, grandparents, aunts, uncles, older siblings, which is why it's so important to have the conversation with your children. And so 2013, after I had that conversation with my parents, I did seek counseling and I went to therapy. So I would tell anyone any day that it is okay to go to counseling. It is okay to seek a therapist. I go to church. I'm a believer. I pray. I read my Bible, and I still went to counseling. So it's all. I mean, of course, it's all what it all is. Whatever you're comfortable with, but I would encourage counseling because it has taught me so much about myself. It taught me how everything was connected from the abuse, and it's so much that you can learn just from going to counseling. It doesn't mean you're crazy. So it is okay to seek counseling. Even growing up in our community and in the church, there's nothing wrong with it. And so once I finished counseling and therapy, I actually started going to PD Coalition. That's why I started out at first, as far as trying to figure out what was going on, how the whole thing works. And I wanted to get as much training in and volunteering in. And so once I finished there, I knew that there was something more that I had to do. I knew that my journey did not stop there. And that's what prompted me to start One Touch Transformation, because I wanted to share with others who had gone through similar traumatic experiences that healing is available and that healing is possible. So while we do focus on the awareness and the educational part of sexual abuse, we also like to focus on the healing side of it, because that's what people need to hear. That's what they need to see, to let them know, like, look, just because it happened to you does not mean that you have to allow it to dictate who you are, dictate where you're going, because you can overcome it. Although it is a continuous journey, it is a journey, it is a process, and it's not anything that just happens overnight. And so One Touch Transformation, we've seen so many survivors blossom, besides, just me blossoming through doing the organization, because let me tell you, it has been healing for myself as well as others. So anytime that I'm able to share my story, I know that someone can benefit from it. Someone can find healing in it. And so every time that I've been able to share my story or collaborate with other organizations while we're raising awareness, it has been a blessing to me. And so I am just so grateful that we're still able to continue. It's been about 7 years now. And just hoping to continue to grow with the organization, collaborate with many others, whether it's churches or other organizations that are fighting the same fight. I'm just willing to join up with anyone who is, willing to fight with us, because we know that it's very sad that it continues to happen, and also sad that it's being covered up. And it's time that we have the conversation, hold people accountable, and do what we need to help save our children and all these men and women who are still hurting from the pain of their past.
Absolutely. So I know as part of One Touch Transformation, you have a wonderful mentorship program called
Mm-hmm.
the Butterfly Effect, right?
Yes, yes.
So tell us about that program and what it's all about, and what do you do with these young ladies that you're mentoring, and will you be having one over the summer?
Okay, so with the butterfly effect, it's an extension of OTT. And what we do, or what we were doing before COVID happened, we were meeting with young ladies ages 6 to 15 once a week for 12 weeks. So it was a 12-week program. And so within these 12 weeks, we would have like one-on-one hands-on experience with them, teaching them about good touch and bad touch, teaching them what consent is, what boundaries are, teaching them about self-esteem, self-worth. Our motto is actually, I am strong, I am powerful, I am beautiful, and I am perfect just the way that I am. So we were using all of these lessons and these sessions as preventative tools, as a way to, give them kind of a heads up, just in case anyone did approach them uncomfortably, and let them know that it is okay to say no, letting them know who is allowed within their boundaries and who is allowed to touch them, as far as like the younger kids, because of course we had to teach them like only mommy and daddy, they're supposed to touch you in those private areas. And so we would have these, real life conversations, things that we needed to hear as young girls. So I do have a lovely group of mentors who help, and we were able to have a group in Hartsville, we had a group in Darlington, and we had a group of Florence. And let me tell you, I really, really do miss meeting with these girls. COVID had made a stop with the interaction. So of course things have changed, and we did try to do it virtually, but of course it's not the same, because it's not the same having that one-on-one interaction whenever you're doing it virtually. But we still wanted to provide some kind of outlet for these girls, because the girls, well, kids by himself, even though it was for girls, but my plans are still to start one with boys, because I know boys need it just as much as the girls do. But with the butterfly effect, we wanted to be there to kind of give them that extra boost that they need, and have real life conversations with them, because kids start having trouble, they start having issues at a young age, and you never know what's going on at home. And so we wanted to be an outlet for them, so and be mentors that they can talk to and have conversations that they're not comfortable having with their parents. And I really miss meeting with those girls. Like I said, they were all a special group. The ones in Hartsville, we partner up actually with Seersucker Gypsy downtown, and with Roxy Garner. She opened up her shop, and we would go in the back of her store. We had a great group. Let me tell you, Hartsville used to be my biggest group, and that's my hometown, so that's why I had to shout that out. So Hartsville used to be my biggest group. Darlington, the housing authority office, they opened up their doors and allowed us to meet with their girls there. And then in Florence, we had the office where I was had my space. We would meet there on Wednesday, so we had it set up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And let me tell you, it was a blessing for myself as well as the other mentors. But like I said, we did try to change it over to a virtual session, which was a little difficult, because times like this, it's a difficult time. But I'm hoping and praying that we can go back to meeting face to face when things really do kind of calm down. And I just really enjoyed teaching those girls and meeting with those girls, and just building relationships more than anything, and allowing them that outlet and that space where they can feel safe enough to talk to us about things that they may be having problems with at home or at school. I mean, because we touched on internet safety, we talked about cyberbullying, we talked about even cookings, our careers. If I had to highlight one of my favorite nights, it probably was the career night, where we had them to actually create their own resume. So we were teaching them life skills, as well as talking to them about consent and boundaries. And so I really can't wait till we start that back up full force.
Absolutely. You have anything?
Margaret, yeah, I was sitting listening to her. I'm a pastor, okay? And those are things that you don't, that, and I hate to say this, but those are things that you don't think about when you're pastoring. I'm thinking about a person's soul, right? Mm-hmm. Not but when you're pastoring, there should be, and the ideology is that you're thinking about the whole person. And those are things that you miss, because you know about the physical abuse, you know about that, you know about the alcohol abuse, the drug abuse, but this part, this hidden part, especially in our culture, in our society, these things have been, for many years, has been swept up under the rug, and it causes isms and schisms within a family. And so you wonder sometimes why families are split. And then when you finally get the story, that's the end result. Well, that's the origin of it. And he was talking about counseling and how important counseling is. And the Bible speaks highly about counseling, and that's the misconception. Proverbs 11:14 tells us that I got to make sure I say this right, but it says something about where there's no counsel, people fall, right? And then in a multitude of counselors, there is safety. So sometimes seeking counsel keeps us safe, and it prevents other people from going through the same thing that we're going through. And I commend you, and I really applaud you on you coming and you doing what you're doing, because there is so many young ladies and young men that have the same story that you have, and you talking about it gives them the courage to bring this stuff to the forefront and get rid of those predators that's lurking around other people in the family or other people in the community. And it really disturbs me that that this is not being talked about as much as it should be. So it's making me rethink ministry. Okay. And it's always good when you learn something. Today is a good day for me, because I've learned something that I can add to ministry. And that's the safety and the welfare of the people that's in my congregation. And this is part of it. So thank you so much for that. I mean, it means I'm upset with myself, right? I'm upset because this is something that it should be a no-brainer. But it's silent in the church, and we've been taught to keep this silent. But the Bible did tell us, to cry loud and spare not, right? So now this is the thing we need to be crying loud for, and get it out there. So thank you so much for your story.
Oh, we also we do like short seminars called Spark the Convo. And this is where we bring in the resources with churches. As a matter of fact, we just had one this past Wednesday. We did it virtually with Antioch Fellowship Church. Actually, they allow us to come in and do it every year during April. And so we invite other ministers and pastors and leaders that are in the church so that they can be educated and made aware of what to do if it does happen in the congregation, which we know it goes on in the congregation, but we just don't hear about it. But we have this seminar just to let them know that resources are available when it comes to whoever's working in children's ministry, that you need to do background checks, because if anyone has an issue with a background check when it comes to working with children in the church, then something's wrong. But it's one of those places where, we kind of okay, they're a good person, so we'll let them be over the ministry. But at the end of the day, background checks are still important. And so this is why we have seminars like this, just to, let the church they need a check, you need to make sure that while you are, like you said, concerned about the souls of the people, we still need to be concerned about the whole being. We need to make sure that, things like this are not being swept under the rug, or just because someone is a good person or a good ties player, or, whatever it is, that they're not just, being covered up, but we need to hold all of these people accountable, whether they're a deacon, whether they're a minister, whoever they are, because if they're in the church, hey, it's still wrong, it's still a crime, and it still needs to be reported, if it comes to that. But Spark the Convo is another seminar that we host at churches.
But that's I'm gonna be in touch with you about that. Also, I think people are really, the misconception is that church is full of good people. Right. And that's total opposite. The reason for church is because there's a bunch of messed up people. Right. And so church is a place to go and get them right. So our churches are full of people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, And so, like you said, we need to be more vigilant about the people that we allow in position, not only in church, but in other areas of our community, because some people use those areas as a source of, as a cloak, and also as an opportunity to attach themselves as a predator. And so we have to be a little more vigilant about what we're doing. So,
absolutely.
Wow.
It's wonderful. We definitely, we're not gonna, we try to get you out of here in 30 minutes less, because we know you got to get back to class. And we thank you for coming on, and we definitely will, once school get out, I know you're gonna have a little bit more free time over the summer once summertime come in. So we'll love to have you back, and maybe even do a virtual training from this platform around what you just talked about, or some other training, whatever you want to do. Your platform is our platform is your platform, and we're offering that to you to get your message out.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And again, we thank you for coming. We thank you for giving us this message, and talk to us about your story of advocacy, and again, One Touch Transformation, a wonderful organization. Any last words you want to leave us with?
As a survivor, for any victims who may be watching, or maybe those who have not found the courage to speak up, just know that there's no rush on it. Don't allow anyone to rush you to share your story, because it is your story, and it's a process. It's a journey, and you just continue to trust the process and trust your journey. And for those who are supporters, or I would call them secondhand survivors, if you are a family member who's going through it, just continue to be that support system that they need. And again, don't rush them to share anything that they're not ready to share. but just be that support system that they need. If they, even if they just want you to sit there and listen or be there, go at them as they go to counseling. If they want you there, then just do that. Be there for them. If it's something that you cannot handle, be honest and let them know, I don't know the answer, or I can't help you with this, but I can find the answer or help you find the answer. Then that's another option. But I'm just grateful. I'm grateful today, and just keep pushing and know that you're not alone. That there is healing on the other side, and I think that's it. There's so much I can say, but there's so much I can say when it comes to this. But I'm just grateful that I can be a testimony for someone.
Absolutely. Well, we're gonna
Absolutely.
leave it. Yeah, we're gonna leave it there. Then I guess we're gonna leave it there. And again, if you could give us your contact information for you or your organization, just in case someone wants to reach out and have any questions or just need some
Okay.
advice, right?
Yes. So the organization is on Facebook under One Touch Transformation, and our website is onett.me. That's onett.me. And we're also on Twitter and Instagram at underscore onett. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under Arthenius Jackson. I think I'm the only Arthenius Jackson in this world. And so all you got to do is type in that on Twitter and Instagram is Arthenius J. But feel free to inbox me if you have any questions. If I can't answer the question, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to be honest, but I will help you find the answer.
All right. Thank you. And again, we appreciate you being here with us. And this is the Care South Carolina Community Live podcast. For more information for Care South Carolina, you can reach us at our website, www.caresouth-carolina.com, or 866-498-0396. Thank you again for coming. And, you're officially a friend of the show. So anytime you want to come back, you got a message that you put out there, reach out to me and Daniel, and you're definitely welcome to come on.
All
All right.
right. Thank you.
You're
All right,
welcome.
everyone. All right. This is the show, and we'll see you next Friday. Same time, same place.